Schizo Dumpz did a very interesting video about people pleasing. I want to talk about this because there's a certain degree of that behavior that's been in my life. Not exactly the way he describes it in his circumstance, but I'm going to talk about my circumstance. And my circumstance largely to do with, well, let's talk about neurology. Okay, so when late elementary school, about 5th grade, going into then middle school and then early high school, there's this hormone surge, right? And people get more aggressive. And neurotypical people are constantly signaling through their subtlety of body language, the way they breathe, the tone of voice, the way they look around, who's dominant, who's submissive, who's neutral, who's an ally, who's an enemy, who's sexy, who's not, whatever, all these things, right? Which I cannot read very well. And my own body language doesn't signify these things. You know, if I'm sitting, I can sit still for a very, very long time. Why aren't you moving around? Why aren't you breathing? I've had people tell me all the time, you don't breathe. Steve, you need to breathe. I'm like, if I wasn't breathing, then I'd be dead. I'd be unconscious on the ground. What happens, though, is that, especially for young people, especially with a hormone surge, the amygdala is firing off alarms because I'm not giving off the normal, I'm putting that in air quotes, body language. And since I can't make sense of it, some people think, well, if this person's dominant, they submissive, and on top of that, have a facial tic, Tourette's, and they're like, they don't know if I'm disrespecting them or if I'm engaging in what you would call pre-fight jitters because I'm having all these twitches. And some people, when they get worked up, like they start twitching, you know, and the amygdala is firing off a warning, but the prefrontal cortex is not developed yet, so they can't regulate it. In addition, especially given that period of time, which is late 80s, early 90s, the World Wide Web wasn't a thing, so people couldn't actually educate themselves about stuff. And they didn't know about these neurological disorders. So they thought you're just engaging in like crazy behavior. You're always engaged in pre-fight jitters. They get alarmed because they grew up, whatever, dealing with violence and whatever, and seeing people with pre-fight jitters. So they want to beat you down or establish dominance so they don't feel threatened by you. On top of that, in my life, so dealing with that constantly at school, and then my own mother nagging me, and may she rest in peace, okay? Yeah, you're not supposed to speak ill of the dead, but this is just a true story. Nagging me constantly about everything. I couldn't do anything at home without my mom shitting on it. My favorite video game, I don't like that game. I don't like those books. I don't like fantasy novels. And of course, she'd nag me about my facial tic. You're blinking every 10 seconds. You need to calm it down. I notice that when you play video games, you blink more. You gotta stop playing video games. No more TV for you, son. All this nag. Under attack constantly. At home, at school. Each one was a break from the other. Like, at least I'm not getting nagged by my family when I'm at school. I'm not getting assaulted and harassed by my peers when I'm at home. Mindfuck, isn't it? That's a total mindfuck. So I had to learn, like, how do I behave so I don't get assaulted to the best of my ability, right? I didn't know I was autistic. I didn't know about the Tourette's. I wasn't diagnosed with Tourette's until I was like 14 or 15. And even then, that was people like, what? What? Like, dude, I've heard of Tourette's before, but I didn't know I had it. I thought it was just the vocal utterances. I didn't know there was the facial tics and whatever, any other motor tics. You try to explain it, like, that's bullshit, right? Because people, that's who they are. No one's curious about your average-brained, average uncurious, whatever. What's the not Kiersey, we call that Myers-Briggs temperament. SPs and SJs, they live just, they're not curious. They can't think in the abstract. Yeah, they're like, what? The Terrell, what? Heck, I remember, sorry, I'm going to just jump ahead in time. I interviewed for a warehouse job like in 2010, 2011, and sit down with the guy who runs this company. This guy, I'm going to say where it is. A company in Peterborough, New Hampshire, who made hunting supplies. And I sit down, he's like, you all nervous or something? Why are you twitching? Now, I understand that Italian guys can sound like aggressive when they're not. Okay, it's a subcultural thing. But I'm like, oh my God. I sitting down an interview with the guy who runs the company, and he's fucking hostile to me. I said, I have Tourette's syndrome. I can't help the tics. To what? I'm like, really? How can you fucking like be in your mid 40s or about 50, run a company, have an HR department, not understand basic neurological disorders? How can you fucking not know this shit? Any case, I digress a little bit, but there we go. So I started developing, how do I not offend people around me? Make sure I follow the fucking rules. I learned that you get punished for following the rules too. You get punished for doing what's expected of you. I learned that on the job. I've learned that at school. You learn that some people who just behave horribly got a pass. And if your good behavior, it's the slightest mistake, you get punished, right? So you constantly, if you're being punished by reality, whether it's authority figures or your peers constantly, you end up developing this pathological, like, how the fuck do I just not get attacked all the time? No. So Schizo Dump talked about correcting this and saying, is this person a threat to me? No. Okay, there's no reason for me to worry about what they think about me then, right? You can try to talk yourself through it. If it works for him, good for him. Never worked for me, because there's another layer to it that I've experienced, is that, like I said, going back to the amygdala sounding alarms in the prefrontal cortex, regulating behavior, regulating impulsive behavior. When you become an adult and you realize you can go to jail for constantly harassing or assaulting somebody, the dominance behavior has to change. So what people will do is just come up and give criticism, because if they can cause you a change in your behavior, because they're alarmed by your body language, they're alarmed by your tics, and they're going, okay, well, I'm going to go try to get this person to submit to me by way of legitimate criticism. Even it could be bullshit criticism, but also be legitimate criticism. And so you thank them. All right, I've learned to deal with criticism and saying, thank you very much for the suggestion. And then, whatever, I file it away and I'll consider it. And if I find that the information is useful, I'll use it. And if not, I won't. But I don't change right away, unless it's something imminent, like if, hypothetically speaking, I'm about to step on a landmine. Hey, dude, there's a landmine. Don't step on that. Huh? All right, thanks, friend. All right. Watch out. That box is about to fall on you. Okay. Or whatever. I worked in a book warehouse. If I picked a book and there was a tear, an obvious tear in a book cover, and I didn't notice it, say, dude, watch what you're picking here. Look, you have a damaged book. Okay, thank you. Right. I know to reject that book from the pick. So, great. No problem. But if it's not an imminent threat, something imminently important, then I'd thank them and just file it away and continue on with my life, continue on with my day, whatever I'm doing. But if they don't stop bothering me about it, then I know their motive is probably not kindness. Their motive isn't trying to help me be better. Their motive is dominance. Because I'm like, okay, thank you. So you continue on your work. Dude, I told you that you're supposed to do it this way. Okay, I heard you and I thank you for the suggestion. No, you and they double down, triple down, like, dude. And you have to say, I appreciate your suggestion. I will make my own decisions about this. Eventually, you have to stand up to them eventually. You have to be like, I will make my own decisions about this. Thanks for the suggestion. All right. If you have any further problem, go to the boss about it. If they back off then, okay. But that happens very often. Now, sometimes people will back off if they see you don't change your behavior. Like, oh, this guy isn't doing what I said. Okay, I respect him now. He's not doing what I say. Man, he pushed back on me. All right. Yeah, we're equal now. I thought I could dominate him, but I guess we're equals now. Ugh. Constantly. I've dealt with this constantly my whole life. Once I started figuring out, once I understood my autism especially, and then now I'm like, okay, these are the social games people play, and this is why they do it. So, I can take I can perform gracious acceptance of criticism, but I'm very aware when people will not let the subject go and double down. And I know now it's not actually about helping me be better. It's about they're uncomfortable and they have to establish dominance by giving suggestion and causing a change in my behavior that shows my submission. Because we live in a world where you can't just beat someone down. You can't just harass them all the time. You know, you have to use clever means. You have to use more Machiavellian means to dominate others. You know, those people do that. Con men do that, right? You know, you ever see that guy? There's a videos on YouTube. Guys like, hey, how you doing? Hey, they talking about hitting someone up on the street. Hey, let me hold that, and let me hold that, and then let me hold your wallet. Let me hold your phone. Hey, I'll be right back. And you walk off and like, hey, where's my stuff? You know, they get your submission, and then they can do anything they want with you. People do this to each other all the time. And to some neurotypical people, that's perfectly legitimate behavior. It's always about this dominance and social status and shit that I don't fucking care about. And obviously, you know, genetically speaking, I guess I don't care about it because I don't perform these things, right? For me, you know, respect is please and thank you, excuse me, pardon me, you know, whatever, you know, the basic courtesies. And otherwise, I just convey information logically. So, in conclusion, because I know I just info dumped the fuck out of you, my cope with this people-pleasing behavior is what I'm never going to get past this need for others to try to dominate me. I'm always going to live with that. But the cope is thank somebody for the suggestion. If it's not immediately important for me to alter my behavior, I don't. And if it means I, you know, make a mistake, a mistake on the job, then I just take my lumps for the mistake and then implement the stuff later. Observe their behavior and see if they double down on the criticism, to see if their behavior is consistent either with offering to help sincerely or is it a social dominance game. In most of my experience, it's a social dominance game. Now, if I had more normal body language, then I could probably be more confident that the criticism is just criticism, because whatever I'd be doing the subtleties of breath and body movement and whatever tone of voice and whatever, all these other, you know, things that these very instinctual creatures called neurotypicals do. Yeah. All right. That's it. Done. That's my video for today. Have a nice day.